Yeah, hello and welcome to this video. Round 8, played today on Sunday of Tata Steel 2013. So I'll go through the games, but I'll warn you in advance that it will be a little bit quicker and in less detail than usual, because I had a game myself today, played a draw in the German league. It wasn't so interesting to show the game, but it still was a long day with the drive during snowstorms and whatever. So it's a little bit shorter than usual. So let's start, and I'll pick the first game. Let's do this one. Giri against Wang Hao. A duel of two of the tail enders in this tournament. Both not having a great tournament. Giri already lost 3 games, 2 or 3 games, and Wang Hao just lost yesterday terribly to Nakamura. So I guess they both didn't mind to have a quiet game. So Slav and Wang Hao plays with G6, the so-called schlechter Variante auf Deutsch. Okay, so it's a very solid setup for black with G6, and the main idea is to get the bishop out, the light squared bishop. It gets exchanged, and now black's setup is like this. He's got all pawns basically on the light squares. Sometimes he even plays A6, has the bishop on G7, and this is as solid as it can get. Very hard to break down this position. This is always also a favorite of Gata Kamsky's, who's really making a living out of playing this is black and not losing, and sometimes even winning. Okay, so what is white's plan here? He can play for space advantage with C5 and probably F4, or he can play for E4. The other point is black can play E5 himself. In the game we see that after some typical strengthening moves, black decided to take and play E5. This is actually relatively ambitious approach by black. In comparison, you also could just sit and wait. We get this kind of setup. White played C5 to make some room for his bishop, but on the other hand his B2 bishop isn't so great. We have with knight e4 some exchanges, and here it's already quite apparent that it's difficult for white to get something. He's got no pawn break, d5 maybe, but the problem is that d4 is a weakness, and a couple of moves later we see that black firmly blocks d5 and also has got this weakness securely protected. And here we are already close to a draw, as both sides don't have much ideas to get forward. Yeah, we had some exchange here, and black gets the c5 pawn.
Check.
Yeah, also rook takes c5 was possible, but bishop e8 maybe. Yeah, this is probably easier, attacking those 2 pawns.
Check.
And just
check.
A couple of moves later, when there was a draw agreed. It's it's a perpetual even. So I guess both players content with the draw. This setup, this variation here, can be recommended for black players who really want a very solid setup. It's hard to break down, but difficult to do something with. I guess after this loss, Wang Hao wasn't too disappointed with the draw. Okay, let's go next game. Let's do Anand against Sokolov. So Sokolov being the tail ender of the tournament, and Anand close to the lead, so certainly Vichy wants to get something going. We got a Ruy Lopez, and Sokolov plays f5, the Schliemann gambit, or Jänisch gambit. Very good line for black. It's in great theoretical shape, and gives black opportunities to get white on some terrain that he maybe doesn't know so well. Of course, in normal games, not in world-class games, they certainly know what to do, but you can still surprise people with f5. Okay, knight c3 is the main line he took, and knight f6. This is the way this is played nowadays. The old move d5, which can lead to crazy complications after knight takes, and this. They don't think it's really refuted, but nowadays people almost exclusively play knight f6. This is the way I play this myself as black. I sometimes play f5 as a surprise weapon. Okay, queen e2. Here I actually played d5, which is probably the main move, but Sokolov didn't go for that. d5 can lead to
check.
Something like this. Yeah, I don't want to make a theoretical survey out of this. It's entirely different. Sokolov played queen e7, which I just checked in the database, which is really a main move. But I never knew this existed even. I only knew d5. But it seems to be quite okay for black. Castles, d5. So black delayed this move for one move, and now we have the same structure as mentioned before. Black has got quite imposing pawn center, but the problem is he still suffers from this pin and from, of course, a somewhat weak king position. And Anand tries to open up the position instantly, getting this kind of idea into play. f5. Yeah, black protect this pawn laterally. Queen h5, just queen f7. And it's not much happening really. It's quite interesting to play this way as black, but of course a bit risky. Well, now the knight is hanging, and white just protected it. Bishop g7, c3. d4 was also hanging, and at some point it needs protection. Now black manages to castle. So certainly Sokolov could be quite content with the opening result. White didn't really get something. Okay, f3, trying to chip away at the center, but simply normal development is okay for black. Here actually,
check.
Sokolov played this somewhat shocking move, bishop takes d4. I don't think it was really necessary, but it seems to be fine. It simply initiates a tactical sequence. White took it, otherwise you're just a pawn down. Knight takes, and now we see that there's a double attack. Queen d2, this is the point. Knight takes b5, it was hanging, so need to capture. And now white takes here. So Sokolov had to calculate this tactical sequence, and it seems to lead to a pretty drawish position. But I guess Anand didn't have much chance to play something else, to keep on fighting. Here he played rook d1. He could take on b7. This is something you could think about, but it looks somewhat strange. Let's say queen c5 check, king here, bishop here, and the queen is almost trapped. Rook c1 is maybe an idea, but I don't think you really have something at the end. Let's say queen takes c1,
check.
Queen takes a8, bishop a8, rook here, and takes. And I don't really think that white is playing for a win here. Of course, black has only isolated pawns, so it's also not possible probably for black to do anything. But certainly white cannot go for a win here. He played rook d1, and in fact after rook e8, hit this wrong button, rook e8, he played knight takes f5, just liquidating the position. Simply because white doesn't have anything, and potentially he needs to be careful with the somewhat offside knight on h4. So this simplifies the the game to a draw.
Check.
Yeah, and draw agreed. Yeah, certainly a good result for Sokolov, but he's really yeah, a pretty good player. I mean, last place is somewhat worse than he's capable of, and if you get a good, those guys, those 2-6 something players, 2-6-70, get a good position out of the opening, they have good chances to score points against even the best in the world. And this was certainly a good result. Maybe this Queen E7 move surprised Anand. Hard to tell. It's always hard to tell what line Sokolov is going to play in the Rui. He plays all lines basically. Okay, so draw here for Vichy. So next game, Harikrishna against Leko. Here the biggest surprise for me was that Leko played the Najdorf, which I didn't really knew that he's playing this. I knew of the Sveshnikov, of course, and with the Najdorf, yeah, maybe I'm simply not up to date, but I was really surprised to see that. Yeah, Harikrishna played Bishop E3. Here the old move Bishop G5 nowadays is back on the theoretical limelight with E6, F4, and Queen B6 and those kind of lines. But Harikrishna plays Bishop E3, initiating the modern main line, so to say. E5, Knight to B3, Bishop E6. Yeah, and here the main setup is F3 and G4. This is typical English attack formation, and Queen D2 castles, long castles. But Harikrishna plays something different, and it's an interesting setup. He plays H3, Bishop E7, Queen F3. This has become popular lately. The idea is to quickly get the queen out, prepare castling this way, and then probably play G4, G5, H4 very quickly. And, this is exactly what happened. B4, Knight D5. Yeah, this all looks fairly typical for the Najdorf. He took with the knight, which is probably the right decision, and now dropped all the way back. Okay, it looks a bit weird to yeah, to go back to C8, but I think you cannot tolerate the knight here on D5. You need to capture it, and you don't really want to take it with the bishop. This kind of position looks very good for white with G5, H4, Bishop D3, and without a light squared bishop, this is simply not fun to play. So this is correct, I guess, and Bishop B3, A5, all fairly logical. Yeah, now white regroups the knight, maybe using it on E4 on the king side in general. But Leko played Bishop G5. Yeah, very logical. Somewhat bad piece on E7, and Black wants to exchange it. I think in all, this is a very straightforward and logical game. F5, of course, H7. You need to attend to the main threat, and F5 leads to a change of the pawn structure, as we will see soon. Exactly like this. And here, the typical feature of this structure is that white will get a knight on E4, which will, let's put it on the board, always attack D6. And what black has got in return is some play on the F pawn and maybe the H pawn. And this probably cancels each other out. Rook A6 to cover D6. And now knight E7. If the knights are off, then black probably is even slightly better. So this is what white needs to take care of. A6 was saying, so rook B6, G3, G6. Yeah, black has no easy way to get rid of the knights. This is a problem. Queen E3, attacking the rook. And we have a queen trade. And white even tries to get rid of this rook. Black drop back. Yeah, now we have the mentioned trade of knights, and here the game was agreed drawn. Actually, this is the position, a position where I think black could try to play on for a bit. C2 and F2 look weaker, let's say, than maybe D6. D6 is hard to get at, but you can play against the C and F pawn. It's drawish, yeah, no doubt about that. But if someone can try in this game, in this position, then it is black. And yeah, you can easily imagine, yeah, in our times that a player like Carlsen would play this against a 2-6-50, 2-6-80 guy and probably win some of these positions. Yeah, but black doesn't have much, but I think you could try to play on. Okay, a draw agreed. Okay, now let's have a look at Aronian against Hou Yifan. Of course, this is a game that a player like Aronian must try to win if he wants to fight for the win in this tournament. He yesterday spoiled a win against Karjakin with black, and now certainly wants to win. He went c4. Aronian sometimes plays c4, and we get the so-called Mikenas variation with c4 and e4. Yeah, this is fairly interesting for white, and actually I always believe that white can fight for an advantage in this opening. This is also why knight f6 and e6 isn't so popular among top players, because they want to avoid this e4 line. Otherwise, this would certainly be a popular move order as d4. Let's say the alternatives. Yeah, knight f3, d5 leads to a queen's gambit declined, which is quite popular. Bishop b4 is okay. And if white would play d4 instantly, then you got a Nimzo. Also great. So this would be a popular move order, but e4 is a slight issue for black. It's not like white is clearly better, but white has more chances to fight for an advantage in this opening than in many other lines. Okay, d5 is the main reply. e5 and d4. This is the way to go for black. Takes, white recaptures. This is the way you play for an advantage in this position. And in a recent game where I actually had black, the white player went takes on g7, and after
check.
takes a very dull position raised. Of course, here white has absolutely nothing, but as black you cannot do much as well. Okay, but b takes c3 is the way to go if you want to play for an advantage. Queen f6, and now knight to f3, which is interesting. The old way to play this is actually d4 and try to make use of the center. Knight f3 is a tricky sideline, which in fact I played myself a couple of times. d4 is also possible to fight for an advantage, but knight f3 has some tricks. e5, yeah, now g4 would transpose, but bishop d3, this is the point of the knight move, to delay d2 d4 and probably play bishop e4 before that. Bishop g4, this is very rare. Here black normally plays knight c6 or bishop d6. This is a very rare move. Bishop e4. Yeah, and now we see why bishop g4 is probably not played so often. It's not terrible, but the instant problem is that b7 is hanging, and how do you protect it? If you play a mechanical move like knight c6, then a move like queen b3 or rook b1 can get a bit annoying. How to protect this now? Yeah, black needs to play some really ugly move, I guess. You don't want to castle long. And yeah, some rook b8 probably, but this is not much fun. Simply castles and maybe d4 quickly. white will open up the positions to its advantage. So she played knight d7, which is interesting, just sacrificing this pawn. But still, if you look at this, bishop b7, rook b8, returns to d5. Yeah, this is probably to provoke c6, as it's hard to tolerate the bishop on d5. And now we have this operation. Yeah, trading everything down to an endgame after move 16. And here, yeah, white has an extra pawn. But, of course, the pawn structure is rather ugly. On the other hand, black structure isn't great either. c6, a7 is also weak. And I'm not sure that you really want the pawn on e5. Probably you want it, but it's not brilliant for black either. What surprises me, actually, if you give this position to a computer, or like Houdini or ICC has got Stockfish as a default, which I sometimes look at. But let's take Houdini, which is the strongest engine. I'm pretty amazed that it gives this position as completely equal. This is, of course, nonsense. White has an extra pawn, and black has no apparent compensation for this. Of course, it's not a technical win, but white is definitely better with the extra pawn. Hard to convert, but a pawn is a pawn, and black certainly never will win. Yeah, this is the reason why white is better. I'm pretty surprised to look at clock times. They played this very quickly. Aronian actually with more time on the clock than he started with. Maybe it's a preparation. But for Hou Yifan, I mean, if she prepared this, then I'm pretty amazed. Why would you prepare an opening which leads to a pawn down endgame, where you have to suffer? Okay, so we have some fairly normal-looking strengthening moves for both sides. And this is the problem. The game will continue, and white always has this extra pawn, and at some point it might tell. Of course, you don't see anything concrete going immediately, but in the long run it is a pawn. In fact, king e6, bishop c1, rook b6, f4. And here, after f4, yeah, she simply made a mistake. Probably black in this position needs to grab the pawn. It doesn't look too attractive, admittedly, because white then has got these four pawns here against 2. This also applies for black, 4 against 2, but d4, c5, c4, this comes quickly and with tempo, and black's king is in the mix, also maybe getting under fire. So white is also better here, but you need to do this. If you look at what she played rook a6, and now white captured, and now it gets really problematic. The thing is, the normal looking move, bishop takes e5, white just plays this move, and this pin is actually decisive. Black has no way to save the bishop, white threatening d4 or f4, and you have no way to save it. King here,
check.
Just this check, and it's over. And king here,
check.
Got c5,
check.
c4, and again it's curtains. This even is
checkmate,
a direct mate. So you cannot capture with the bishop. And if you cannot capture with the bishop, what should you do? Yeah, probably she needed to take with the king, which looks completely bonkers, but it doesn't seem to lose outright. It's better for white, of course. c5, bishop back,
check,
check, and yeah, white is clearly better, probably winning. But what is the alternative? What she did in the game is
check.
She took here, and after king b1, there's simply a double attack. And black is a piece down, and quite surprisingly she didn't resign, but played on a couple of moves.
Check.
Yeah, but okay, Aronian is winning this if you wake him up at 3 AM at night. and probably even without opening his eyes.
Check.
Okay, so a couple of moves later she resigned. Sometimes you're just so disappointed by your performance that you forget to resign. It's human.
Check.
But she certainly should resign somewhat earlier. Okay, 40 moves done, and Black resigned. Yeah, frankly speaking, I don't really get the opening here. Why would you enter relatively, yeah, it looks like willingly into this endgame, which certainly offers pretty decent drawing chances, but I mean, you're playing against someone 200 points better than you, and with a brilliant endgame play, why would you set up yourself into this kind of torture position? I'm not sure. Okay, so she lost this game, and Aronian caught up a bit with the leaders. Alright, so next game, Caruana against Lamy. And Caruana certainly trying to win. He didn't have a great tournament. And Lamy sticks to his Karjakin defense. And Caruana plays e5. This is his main weapon against the Karjakin. Bishop f5 and h4. This is an interesting line, and some line that I can recommend to white players. If you look for some interesting way to combat the Karjakin, this is a good idea. After h5, which is the main move, white plays c4, and this leads to a complex strategical battle. h6, this is played here by Lamy, is answered by g4, and this can get very sharp if black would retreat here because of those e6 ideas, trying to attack on the king side. Usually black plays this move, also played by Lamy in the game, and then white plays h5, e6, f4, which looks funny because white only plays with his pawns, but he's got a huge space advantage on the king side, and it's of course very comparable to a French defense, but a French defense where white has already won the battle on the king side, so to say, but he needs to be cautious as he's got nothing developed. Let's see what happens in the game. In fact, I think what happened here is kind of a model for white. Black went for a quick exchange of this bad bishop.
Check.
Okay, winning a tempo with knight a3.
Check.
Yeah, white supports d4 with knight c2.
Check.
Yeah, and queen a5. And okay, I'm not 100% sure, but I think queen a5 sort of is the kind of move which really admits, okay, I'm worse and I'll be tortured for the rest of the game. Probably I can hold, or maybe I try to hold this position, but it won't be much fun. The thing is, if you get the queens off, white will have no issue anymore with the king. And just have a look at this position, just a couple of moves later. And there's not much else that black can do. I mean, he's so this position. This is simply a one-way street where white has got a big space advantage and can try for ages to press something out of this. He's got f5 as a potential break. The problem is, in this kind of pawn formation, it's very hard for black to move a pawn on the king side, as g6 would weaken the h-pawn, f6 would weaken the e-pawn, and the white squares in general, so you can never move something there. And well, white can move, and f5 is a problem, and this would I'm sorry, gain even more space, and black simply has nothing. He can just sit and wait and hope to survive this somehow. And this pretty much you get by force after you exchange the queens. I understand that black has got no big attack or something that he can drum up quickly, but I think the queen exchange simply leads to leads to a very, very one-sided play. Okay, back to this bishop d2, rook c7, and knight h4. As mentioned, white wants to prepare f5, and here we go. Yeah, it's ugly, but what should black do? This is a flexible move, probably trying to double on the f-file. And now f6. Yeah, black simply loses patience here. Doesn't want to sit and wait all the time, which is understandable and very human. You don't want to stay passive, but this certainly leads to even bigger advantage. White can take, and here white actually could take on e6, which is probably even stronger than what he played, but what white played is strong enough. Knight e3 covers g4, attacks d5, and we see that actually white simply get this pawn. e5 looks quite accommodating, but white actually just threatens to take on e6 and win the house with knight f5 to come. It's just a ruin for black. Okay, e5 is the relatively best try. Takes, and he needs to cover f6, of course. You cannot capture here.
Check.
This is a real big fork. So takes, and knight g6. Yeah, white has just a winning position. In fact, in the game he slightly spoiled it and let black into the game. This is all fairly normal. The problem is simply this dominating position of the knight on d5 and the knight on g6. Black can never move this bishop, as it would probably just get taken and white wins the h-pawn. Yeah, it's just huge pressure. Here black actually had a chance to get some play, and this is by a4. The idea being, after white takes, and it's not so easy to suggest something else, then you've got the move knight d6 with this idea of a check on e4 and also knight to c4. This probably black can continue to fight. He's worse, but he can fight on. The game he played king e8, and now d2 is protected. Yeah, black simply cannot move. We see here Caruana didn't have much time, so he played it in a simple fashion, as those endgames are also very good for white, simply because of the knight g6 against the bad bishop. You can never play bishop f8, as white would take and take h6, and a5 is also weakness. So this is a big advantage in the endgame. It's simply the... Oh, this wasn't intended. I should get... Yeah, now it is gone, this arrow. It's simply a difference in activity. A bad knight, just protecting the weakness. g7 also bad, and this all adds up to a winning endgame. White can improve.
Check.
Yeah, now h6 just falls.
Check.
And after knight c3, white has an easy way to convert by just sacrificing here. Takes, and bishop back. And now we see that the h-pawn decides, because it is supported by the knight on g6. Black has no way to stop the pawn. And in fact, after this,
check,
couple of moves, he resigned after the nice finishing touch g5. If black would take now, then there's
check,
knight e5. And this fork wins the game. So a pretty a good game by Caruana. I think he allowed a little bit too much. In fact, after this, he should really win quickly. But Somehow he allowed a little bit of counterplay, but it probably never was so great for black that he could really save the game. I just think that this structure is too passive for black. You just have to suffer on and on, and you have no play at all. It's just not attractive. Okay, so we got all games except Carlsen against Karjakin, and this is a long game. Okay, so let's start. And yeah, Carlsen plays all openings, now going for G3. And we've got a Reti opening, which is quite funny, because this is a line that I play myself, exactly like this. And now he captured on D5, he takes D5, Knight C2. In fact, in this position, I myself play Knight C3 or Queen B3 mostly. The idea is to attack B7, and sometimes Queen B6 can be answered with this move, and you get a tempo on the queen later, so it's just a little move order issue. Okay, Carlsen played Queen C2, Bishop E7, Knight C3, and the idea of this setup for white is you want to play E4 and get a position where you have an extra pawn in the center. Here Karjakin played bishop takes F3, but what I'm talking about is something like this: castles, and then white would go E4. And a position like this can actually get very sharp. It looks harmless, but it can get very sharp, because white's idea is to remove the knight, probably if possible to D4, and then after preparation even play F4, E5, F5, and use this 4 against 3 majority on the king side. So this is far more interesting than it looks at first sight. But Karjakin played bishop takes F3. He seems to know the line actually, and because this is a very good way to combat this. It leads to entirely different structure. Knight E4.
Check.
And now we have transformed to a pawn structure where yeah, white has got this central pawn formation, which is and the bishop, of course. This bishop and pawns protect each other and secure the center. White has this long diagonal, and he would like to, of course, play the b pawn up to b5 and open up this bishop's diagonal even more. The thing is, what black is doing, of course, is a5, blocking this. Let's just advance a couple of moves. We see what I'm talking about. Black managed to play the pawn up to a4, and of course this position is for black mostly yeah, something to just hold the position. Black cannot really do much in terms of activity, but this also applies for white. White also doesn't really have a great plan for himself. You cannot really play the b pawn, as then a3 would get very, very weak. So there is, frankly speaking, not much going on. Carlsen now tries to get rid of this bishop. He's got the two bishops, but the bishop pair doesn't do much. And let's just advance some moves. Yeah, black, interestingly enough, didn't exchange the bishop, which I probably would have done. But still, there's not much going on. It's just a pretty even position. Black did a good defensive job, and now transforms the pawn structure, setting up this pawn chain. Yeah, it looks pretty even, and yeah, quite fun maneuver, trying to use the queen here. Yeah, it's simply maneuvering, and not much happening. Now Carlsen tries to exchange queens, and this is actually
Check.
accepted. And h5, yeah, fairly typical move. White probably intended to play h5 himself, so black blocks this. So yeah, what is this position? It's just equal. But we see the game continues. You don't need to actually make a draw in an equal position. Carlsen just plays on. And in fact, it's also due to the time. Karjakin was low on time, obviously. Carlsen has lots of time left. Yeah, b3. He tries to do something on the queen side. And probably without risking too much. Bishop f6, yeah, up to now I think there's simply not much happening. Rook d6, protecting, king here, king f8, a4, yeah, okay, probably introducing this idea into the position. And in fact this provoked knight to c3, and as it turns out, this seems to be a mistake. Black probably should just stay in the position. Let's say king here, and just do nothing. If white would play a5 now, then you probably can just capture. After rook takes c5, the a pawn is getting strong. Yeah, this is hanging, but you win this tempo. And if white goes here, then you can play knight c3, and this is entirely different compared to the game, as now the a pawn is strong, and the tactical implications in the game simply do not work. He played this move as mentioned, and now bishop f4 was played, attacking the rook. And what is the problem? The problem is the rook moves, and now e3, and this is somewhat annoying now for black. You cannot take on e3, of course, as c3 is then hanging, or let's say this kind of exchange is of course hugely favorable for white. And what exactly is black supposed to do now? It's really a problem. White also threatens to take on d4, which would be a very good transformation, as then the rook would be free. And let's say black would play a nothing move like this. White would take, and now can just play on. Let's say bishop c6, protecting a4. And here white enjoys an advantage. He's got everything protected. b6 is weak, and this is a potential idea. Black has really problems to keep this position together. This exchange on d4 was very helpful. So king g7 probably doesn't help. What he tried is the following. He took on a4, and this now leads to a tactical sequence. Bishop d5, attacking the rook. And yeah, where should this rook go? If black would play rook e8, then there's bishop c6, and you don't really want that. It loses in exchange or piece, so not great. And yeah, where else? The only other square is e7, and this is he played. Bishop d6. In fact, it's not like losing in exchange. Black has got an idea with all this. He played b5, attacking the bishop, and now forcing this this taking on e7. In fact, instead of b5, black could think about knight c3. Maybe this is slightly tougher. But okay, I don't want to make the video is getting long anyway. I wanted to make it quicker, but didn't manage. Okay, this is probably a bit tougher, but very difficult defense. It's very easy for a person like me afterwards to look at this and switch on an engine, and it gives you this kind of moves. And yeah, okay, white is still better, but black is better in terms of defensive chances. But in the game, it's difficult. He played this move, and this leads to this lateral attack.
Check.
Takes. And this was the idea. Forking rook and bishop. Unfortunately, this leads to the following position. e4. Yeah, needs to regain the exchange. Bishop check and check on b8, and then bishop takes. Yeah, and now what does black got here? It's simply a nightmare to defend this position. Maybe it looks harmless at first sight, but if you look at this a little bit deeper, you recognize that black has big problems, and this is due to a couple of factors. This pawn formation makes your bishop very bad. It is simply trapped within the position. It will never be able to attack something on the white side. However, white's bishop is very strong on c4. It is nicely anchored here and always puts pressure on f7 like this. And this pawn formation also means that white has got 4 pawns against 3, so he's got potential to advance the pawns and maybe get some passed pawn on the king side. And all this is completely passive for black. To defend this is really a nightmare. We see that, in fact, it goes on for quite some time. Yeah, e5 according to plan. And, white has improved the position a bit and now starts to shuffle around. In fact, I was quite surprised that Carlsen played
check.
Some winning try relatively early. I mean, you could easily also play more moves and wait, but we see that relatively quickly. Yeah, still maneuvering. Here, g4. He relatively quickly went with this pawn move. I mean, just 10 moves ago, he played e4, e5, so he could easily shuffle 30 more moves. And in fact, I must admit, this is probably what I would have done. Just showing black that, okay, you can do nothing and I can shuffle till half freeze is over. But okay, he plays g4, trying to win the game. Black took, and h5. This was the idea. A breakthrough based on the fact that this bishop also has no moves. So if white would be able to take on g6, black actually probably needs to take with the pawn, and then white has a great activity for the bishop, and he's got the e-pawn as a pass pawn. So this was the idea. In fact, here black can draw, which the computer shows instantly, but which for a human is very difficult to do. Black actually could take on h5, which looks insane after f5. But the point is, black can simply play h4, f6 check, king g6, rook takes f8, king f5. Black just gives away this piece and starts counterplay with the 2 pass pawns. And in fact, this is a draw. But okay, it's very difficult to decide on this kind of defense, because if you make some mistake, you're completely lost. The problem is it is a draw really. What should white do? Let's say he would attack one of the pawns, then gives a check, and if white wants to try to win, this is a barrier. He would need to walk towards the rook, so like this, and g3. It's very quick here. Note that if white would capture, for example, then g2 already wins for black. This pawn will promote now, so white needs to be cautious even. g3, and now he probably needs to do this and protect against the pawns with the king. But then it's really a draw. You must go here, check. You cannot go to h3. It's
Checkmate.
Self-made. So back.
Check.
And it's a draw. But this is of course very tough to find. This sacrifice basically with capturing both pawns. Karjakin didn't see it, understandably so. He played rook h1, and now white could take. Now Carlsen's plan works. The thing is, why I was suggesting to shuffle 30 more moves, that the idea is to get black's clock down. Of course, they play with increment in white, 30 seconds, but especially if you don't play with increment, then g4 would be too early. You need to shuffle more to get the clock down for black. Okay, g4 takes. Oops, sorry. We were already here. F takes g6. Yeah, now white has got the e-pawn and has got definite winning chances. Maybe it is winning already. Rook e6. The idea is to get at this pawn. King. Bishop d5.
Check. Check.
Yeah, he got this pawn, but now white just wins g6, and it's simply quicker. Those pawns are quicker, and it's also attack on the black king.
Check. Check.
Yeah, and this is simply a set piece. It cannot do anything. And white has a clear winning plan. Just push those pawns home. Yeah, rook g8 is the threat. So this is the only move. And now white sets up a really deadly discovered check. c2. And now white has multiple ways to win. Also e6 would win the game. But he played the simplest solution.
Check.
Just this rook check, and getting this this endgame. You need to be cautious with this, of course. Opposite colored bishops and 2 extra pawns. It doesn't always guarantee a win. There are many positions where black could draw this, but this is not one of them. The problem is that in order to draw this, you would need to get the king to f8. You need to control one of the promotion squares. And black simply never gets to f8 because of the pawn controls here g7 and the bishop controls g6. So black never gets in front of the pawns. And this means it's over. They played a couple of more moves. But white simply is too quick. And here Karjakin resigned. So yet another win for Carlsen out of a really nothing position. He is simply brilliant at those. I don't know how he does it. The critical position probably is really here where black went wrong with knight c3. With some kind of sit and wait move like king g7, probably it would have ended in a draw. But he simply manages to keep the tension and puts this enormous pressure on the defender. g4 here, yeah, but it was really difficult to decide to take on h5 was really difficult, and this was the chance probably to draw the game, but Karjakin wasn't up to it with limited time. All right, so this means Carlsen took the lead again in this tournament, and actually had a look at the remaining rounds, and there are 5 rounds left, and he plays Nakamura and also some of the tail enders like Lamy and Hou Yifan. And if he plays in this fashion, like using all his possibilities, then I don't know what's possible. Maybe he can score another like 2, 3, 4 wins. Who knows? It's really a bit spooky what he's doing. Alright, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I managed to make it a bit quicker, but not much quicker. Simply cannot help myself. Alright, thanks for watching, and I'll be back on Tuesday with the next round coverage. Monday is a rest day, so don't wait for a video all evening. There simply isn't a round on Monday. Yeah, bye.